مساء الخير. هل هو الحظ أم القدر؟ فمن شبه المؤكد أن ابنة محمد حديد وزير المالية العراقي أيام حكم عبد الكريم قاسم لم تكن تعتقد أو تحلم أنها ستصل إلى ما هي عليه اليوم. هل هو الحظ أم القدر؟ من الجامعة الأمريكية في بيروت، حيث حازت على إجازة في الرياضيات، إلى عالم الهندسة المعمارية، بعيدا عن المقاييس الموروثة أو المعهودة أو المتفق عليها، أصبحت بالتالي المهندسة الأكثر شهرة قاطبة والأغنى ثمنا في العالم. هل هو الحظ أم القدر؟ من هي هذه السيدة الغامضة الساحرة، القريبة البعيدة، الشرقية الغربية العربية والأغلوفونية؟ لماذا هي دائما متشحة بالسواد؟ ما سر قوتها؟ كيف واجهت الحملات التي شنت عليها لكونها فقط عراقية المولد من الموصل في زمن يحكى فيه عن العولمة وعن ذوبان الحدود، خصوصا في الفن؟ كيف انتصرت وارتقت إلى القمة وصممت مركز الفن المعاصر في سنسناتي أوهايو، أول مؤسسة فنية أمريكية بهذا الحجم تنفذه امرأة؟ هل هو الحظ أم القدر؟ بين نيويورك، طوكيو، ميونخ، سنغافورة، روما، برشلونة وغيرها حيث المشاريع والمناقصات، وبين جامعات ييل وهارفارد وكولومبيا وهامبورغ وفيينا، لم يكن من السهل اصطيادها. وها نحن الليلة في العاصمة البريطانية نلتقيها عبر شاشة المستقبل الأرضية والفضائية، نحاول اكتشافها واكتشاف وراء وجوه زها حديد. زها حديد، مساء الخير واهلا وسهلا فيك، بيسعدني التقي فيك. الحقيقه كانت الحلقه معده ومجهزه باللغه العربيه، لكنك فضلت الحوار بالانجليزيه. رح ارضخ طبعا لطلبك، وعلى شاشه صغيره رح نشوف الترجمه الفوريه. زها حديد، بمقدمتي ذكرت سؤال معين 3 مرات او طرحته 3 مرات، كان هو سؤال وتساؤل: هل هو الحظ أم القدر؟ وهون السؤال بطرحه عليك: Is it a twist of fate or a stroke of luck?
Well, actually it's neither, I have to say. I think it's really just hard work. You know, I think that of course in your life there are some coincidences. You know, you may meet the right people, the right place, at the right time, or you do the right thing, but which is to do with choice. Mm-hmm. But I think in architecture in particular, I think it's really hard work, and it requires tremendous diligence and perseverance to survive in this profession, like many other professions, if you want to do well. And I think that I would say, you know, being from outside I'm not being a foreigner, living in England, being, you know, Iraqi, and also being a woman, doesn't necessarily always make it more difficult, but it makes it much tougher because there is no stereotype involved. So, you know, I think it is hard. It's hard work.
I think you must also give some credit, so let's say a small coefficient, Emmanuel, one, you know, to luck.
No, I don't think. Well, I believe in luck, but not in my case. I don't think it was luck. I mean, you know, it was lucky I won a competition, but it was because I work extremely hard. You know, it was lucky I met certain people who I think were fantastic teachers, but that was a choice. It wasn't that I kind of stumbled on them. Yeah, of course, I mean, you know, I can't, you know, I come from a privileged background. I can't say, you know, it's not luck in the sense that I scraped the streets and, you know, begged and everything. But it really is hard work. I mean, I wasn't helped out here, you know. I mean, my family helped me for a while, but I really, for a long time, worked extremely hard.
Zaha Hadid, do you think today you have reached the peak of your career?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I think that there is a lot more to be gained, you know. Well, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, I can't say I have achieved what I think is the most perfect project yet. You know, I think that My goal is to ultimately achieve what I call the theoretical project, which is something we all kind of dreamt about or thought about and is yet to be achieved. I think that is my goal.
But I think too that your projects, all of them, are dreams. And you make us live in a dream.
I don't see them as dreams. I mean, they're not dreams as far as I'm concerned.
For you?
No, I mean, they're not. I think it's like, you know, going to a scientist and saying to do research in a particular field to achieve the perfect vaccine is a dream, or the perfect scientific achievement. It's not a dream. It's really something which will improve the way we live.
Do you think you're forecasting or you're projecting the future?
In a sense, yeah. I mean, I think that research into architecture, the intention is to eventually have an impact on the way we live, and in the cities and countries, the way architecture change the way we perceive of culture, of life.
Through a digital technology?
No, not through technology, but through a spatial experience.
Zaha Hadid, my introduction was so brief, if I can say, because, you know, gathering all the information, all the data about you is something quite impossible. So throughout the interviews, throughout the discussion tonight, the viewers are going to understand and going to discover you more and more. And they understand more what we'll be dwelling upon, what we'll be talking about. Zaha Hadid, how do you explain the secrets or the reasons of your success? What were the keys to your success?
Well, you see, I don't see myself as very successful.
That's how we perceive you.
I mean, I think it is, I think I came into this profession, I mean, I don't know whether people, you know, have talent or they gain talent. I really don't know. I think you do obviously have something which is, you know, which suits your personality to the profession you choose. But I think it requires a lot of work to make it much more substantial. I would say, you know, I think that I came into the scene if I look at it from the outside, with a new perspective on the way we should do architecture. And I think the way we should present it, the way it should be done, the way it might be perceived by others. So I think it gave a kind of fresher look, and it gave hope to people who thought that everything has been achieved, everything has been done. And so I think that is, the fact that I think I was also do not fit the kind of the white male European stereotype or American, you know, I think that also added to the intrigue or to the people being curious. But I think it's the three things: the curiosity about me as a woman, as a foreigner, and also the work did not at the time, 20 years ago, did not look like anything else which was around. Well, maybe some other people. I mean, I'm not alone in doing this work. So I think that could be the reason. And also, it was developed, because some people do something and then it disappears. And I think the development of the work and the perseverance and winning many public projects, okay, many of them did not happen at the beginning, that added to the story.
Do you owe anything to anybody?
Yeah, I think I owe a lot to quite a few people. I mean, I owe a great deal to my family. Both my parents were incredibly supportive, and my mother died in '83, but my father was always, they both were extremely supportive. I mean, I never, in my entire life, thought I will not have a career. There was never a moment in my childhood or in my teens or post-teens that I ever thought I will not pursue a career. So my success is not necessarily a great surprise to me, between brackets. It wasn't a surprise, because I mean, you know, I always thought I think that I could excel in something. I always wanted to do architecture, but I could have done something else. That, I mean, I couldn't guarantee it. I didn't inherit a business, you know. It was just, I always knew that if you put your mind to it and you work hard, you eventually get there. It might be a long road, you know.
It seems you were so attached to your father, late Muhammad Hadid. Would you like to talk about this aspect of your life? Personally, I would like you to.
I mean, I was very close to both my parents, you know, and my father was just a very special person. I mean, you know, he was very liberal, very progressive. I mean, he was not necessarily unconservative in certain aspects, but I think that he was all traditional. But he really, I think both my parents and particularly my father gave me tremendous courage. I really think that people can achieve more if they are confident. Even if you're not necessarily that great. If you think you can get past certain things, I think you will achieve more. And I think that parents, I really think that the key to everything is education, you know. And I think education not only in the terms of bookworm education, but how much you are, you observe through life, how much you see through, you learn through people, whether you travel, what you observe. I really think it's the key to everything, you know, and that gives you confidence to tackle the next thing. And of course, you know, parents give you love and affection, and all that adds up to, you know, to be less messed up than you can. And also, I mean, I think they supported through my education abroad. I you know, wanted to go here, I wanted to go there. You know, I didn't always, I mean, I wanted to do architecture, but I wasn't sure. And I think they supported me a great deal. I mean, I was coming to London. I remember being 16 years old, and the whole family was discussing in Salford, and, you know, and
your future.
My future, because I wanted to do architecture, and we thought I was crazy. And so my brother decided that I should become, my brothers teased me a lot, which, you know, made me maybe tougher. So they said, you know, we have an idea for you. You could go and study architecture in Russia, because I wasn't sure where to go. And then they said, we have a better idea. You can become Iraq's first women astronaut. So of course, I mean, I didn't have much sense of humor as a kid. I mean, 15 years old, 16 years old.
It's good when you say, you know, it's an idea, it's a suggestion, not an order.
No,
sometimes, especially in our traditions, you know,
nobody there really.
dictated.
My brothers, you know, I lived in London, they never interfered in my life. You know, I mean, I think that the family all, you know, had enough kind of confidence in me that I would behave myself, behave well, not do silly things. And, you know, and of course that's also an incredible burden, because then you have to behave yourself all the time. And I was always really quite wild as a child. I mean, I wasn't kind of a conformist, let's say, which, you know, of course through that I paid a high price, because if you don't, you know, people don't want people to behave in a different way. If people like to everybody to behave the same way, you know, it's kind of a military academy sensibility, that you behave well in certain ways. You are a nice girl, especially. I mean, you know, you obey orders. You don't say funny things. You know.
But you know, sometimes it's good to do some silly things, no?
No, I agree. I mean, I think that. Well, it's very. I always did what I wanted. You know, I mean, it used to freak everybody out because I would dress funny. I would do funny things. I mean, nobody could believe the things I did. But nobody, I mean, my brothers never really, ever told me I shouldn't do that. You know, they might think so. They might have thought, but they never entered my life. So I'm very grateful to them, because they gave me tremendous freedom to pursue what I wanted. I mean, I think that they were all maybe intrigued and mystified what I wanted to do, and they let me run to see where it will take me.
Let's stop for a break, and then we'll get back to you. Zaha Hadid on future television, وراء الوجوه, or Behind Faces. Back to Zaha Hadid, Behind Faces, or وراء الوجوه. This is the title of the show. Zaha Hadid, you have gained international attention with your controversial winning entry for the Hong Kong Peak competition in 1983. Still, the project only exists on papers. Why having chosen to push the boundaries of architecture and urban design? Was it to be different? Was it to impress the judges either in a positive or negative way? Or was it to create a polemic?
Well, I think that to go back to the people who you asked me whether there's anybody I'm grateful for. I think that maybe grateful is not the right word, but I went to a very interesting school of architecture. I mean, I would say the Architecture Association was a brilliant place because in one place, it was like a magnet, attracted to it interesting students, interesting teachers. So there was so many different teachers which you could not even duplicate their interests. And it was run by a very, very interesting and important chairman, Alan Boyarsky. And I attribute a great deal to him because he was someone who also kind of supported you, gave you a plateau to experiment. When I was a student, he allowed his teachers to experiment with us as students. And when I was a teacher, he allowed me to experiment with my students. So, but also to experiment with your own work, and I think that was really critical to the discourse of architecture. So in my fourth year, up to my fourth year, I was interested in architecture, but I wasn't completely committed. I mean, I was committed, but not, I was still having a good fun time, sort of thing. In my fourth year, I really became very excited about architecture. And I began to realize, actually, I could be, relatively good at it if I worked harder on it, and that it could make a difference. Because there are other, moments in architecture which I think that people have achieved some interesting stuff, and therefore, it's possible to do really great things. And so when I began to realize that you really can actually make a difference, that required not just me and my teachers, which is Rem Koolhaas and Elias Angelis, gave us some kind of really things to do, and I, through that, thought that that the history of modernism was aborted. The work on modernism was aborted, and therefore to make the next leap, one had to do much more work or interpret it differently to make the next leap. And therefore I think that was a seminal moment in my fourth and fifth year, which is in 75, and 77 then, that it became clear that to challenge that, you need to reinvestigate drawing, projections, technology, presentation, spatial experiences, and all that became what I call the theoretical project.
But you really did challenge, the convention.
So I think that was it, challenging the conventions, and therefore that meant, all typologies were thrown out of the window. Every technique which was available was thrown out of the window. That everything had to be re-examined, and that was an incredibly exciting moment, although very difficult because it meant you had to reinvent the next thing.
But it was a complete jeopardy. You're implementing something very new.
Well, it wasn't completely new. No, it wasn't completely new. I think there was a tradition of modernity in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and later in the 50s and the 60s, which was by the 80s and 70s abandoned. There was already a tradition of modernity, which was extremely buoyant at the time.
That's how you became the queen of deconstructionism.
Deconstructionism was really a word which somebody kind of, sitting somewhere hashed it up. But it became, I think there was obviously the idea of, it was a thesis about how to implement modern buildings, and juxtaposition was one of them, which means that in the early 20th century, that the only way forward was to obliterate context, and therefore we say we take on the context and juxtapose new buildings over existing context, superimposition, therefore the idea of collision, and therefore the idea of deconstructivism or deconstruction, and also beginning to look at wiser presentation, which was no longer, because I think that presentation was in a way the key to this challenge, in the sense that before, through mass production and industrial kind of shift, the idea that you do repetition, that everything looks the same, you repeat everything, the generic project, meaning whatever you build exactly the same, and therefore this new realm was about customization, it was about specialization, and obviously because of the interest in three-dimensional spatiality it implied that you don't extrude the plan. So the plan, you just pull up the plan and you have a repetitive floor, that each floor could be very different, and therefore the idea of landscape and collision and all these things came into play.
Zaha Hadid, you're completely dissociated from the Islamic, Oriental, traditional architecture. It's true, but how do you perceive this architecture?
I'm not totally dissociated, because I think that a lot of modernist architects were very influenced by Islamic architecture, and I'm definitely not consciously influenced by calligraphy and writing, but definitely it's the idea of the fluidity of the line is there in the sketches. So there is an influence, but not through folkloric Islamic architecture, more about organization.
Consequently to what you just said, how do you perceive, this folkloric, traditional Islamic architecture?
I mean, I think that I really believe that architecture reflects the way we live at this moment. I don't think that we live in the, in the same way we lived 3,000 years ago. So,
but this is our heritage.
Yeah, but I think heritage is about change. I don't think we should be become a kind of some sort of frozen edifice.
But we are for the preservation of such heritage, no?
Only when necessary.
Only when?
Only when necessary. Only if it applies as a function. I mean, I like some of it. I don't like all of it. I don't think we should do it exactly the same way again. I think you can do, if you think about organization, you can say, look at courtyard housing, how one can build housing like that. But I don't think you can build skyscrapers with some arches on them and call it Islamic.
But many big Arab architects, were inspired by such legacy.
No, I think they're horrible. I think they're dreadful.
How do you find the work of the Iraqi, Rifat al-Jazirji, for instance?
I think he was a very talented guy, but I don't like the work which he did later in time. I think his early work was interesting when it was kind of a very modest scale. I don't believe in the folklore aspect of the Islamic architecture.
What about the Jordanian Rasim Badran?
I don't like his work.
What about the Egyptian Hassan Fathi?
It's irrelevant because it's mud houses. I mean, you don't want to live in one of those houses.
What about the Lebanese Asim Salam?
Asim's work I also like. I mean, I like it when it's done in a different kind of way. I don't believe that you can actually make enormous buildings with some little... I think it works only if done in terms of organization. Then it works.
So, from what you just said, I understand that you don't back up the people or those who try to preserve the heritage,
no, I think
the old architecture, the old houses, the old buildings.
No, I don't mind. I'm not against preservation. Only would serve the purpose. I don't think you preserve it just because it's old. Not everything old is good.
But it's a culture by itself.
Well, I don't know. I don't think that...
they are not only souvenirs or memories,
I
they're a
think
culture
that
by
in
itself.
some cases it's souvenirs.
That's what you say.
It's not, this should not be it. I mean, I'm sorry. It means that the Islamic world could never progress because they believe in their heritage. I mean, how are they going to move on?
We can combine both.
I don't think
modernism and heritage.
You can't. Only in terms of organization you can. You see, I think there's a big difference. If you say, we learn through heritage the way we can organize citadels or the city, and we live in that way, I think it works. But I think that heritage is not about decoration.
But Zaha Hadid, we know very well, that your first projects and even, some of the recent ones are not applicable, cannot be constructed.
No, of course they can.
All of them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time when a project is done with the top engineers in the world, and there's no reason. It's only bloody-mindedness or stubbornness or economy maybe or psychological. They cannot be achieved through that.
But they're not all functional.
They're all functional.
Let's say, for instance, the Alvitra project, which was supposed to be a fire station.
No, it was never only a fire station.
It became a museum afterwards.
Yeah, but it's not because it didn't work as a fire station, because they...
It was not functional to be a fire station?
No, that's not true. It was always functional as a fire station. First of all, no, it's a fact. It was built as a fire station run by the people who work in Vitra. Vitra needed a fire station which was very equipped as a fire station. Now it had to have professional firemen, it had to have, professional cars. This was always built as a fire station run by the factory workers, and it operate as a function space, meaning it could also operate as a museum, an exhibition, lectures, so on. It was never seen only as a fire station. And for reasons not because it doesn't function, they decided to combine their fire station with the fire station. So it's not, and because it is a very popular building, they decided to make it into a museum. It's not because it's not in function.
How do you explain the fact that, the first project you had constructed was in 1993, 15 years after you started?
It was unfortunate.
So this is luck?
No, it's not luck. It's to do with bigotry. It's nothing to do with luck. It's to do with people not wanting to accept the fact that it is possible.
And now they do?
Well, yeah, I haven't changed my work.
Mm-hmm.
So was it not possible 15 years ago? It's possible now. Not because I've become easier.
From what we see, we can notice that you look more for aesthetics rather than for functionality.
No, that's not true.
That's not true?
No.
Zaha Hadid, you're coming from a wealthy family. Could we say that your financial status helped you in your career?
I don't come from a wealthy family.
Let me continue, please. Since you're fully dedicated to what you like, since you're fully dedicated to your passion, disregarding what others want. It's what you want, actually, that is produced, whereas what other wants doesn't matter to you. You don't have financial worries. In other words, we can say that your principle in life is art for art and not art for money.
No, I think you're wrong on all counts. First, I don't come from a wealthy family. My family was wealthy, a long time ago, not when I came to England, when we were nationalized. So I don't come from a wealthy family. My father never educated us as wealthy kids because he was a heavy socialist.
But for you to go to Switzerland, for you to go to London,
yeah, of course I'm privileged.
I'm
not, we're not wealthy. I didn't have money here, certainly. First of all, I don't do it for my own sake. It's like going to anybody with a bit of a brain, let's say a bit of a brain, and saying you have to give everything up because the others want you to become a prostitute, so you do what others want. That's more legitimate than being ideological.
How did you live for the first 15 years?
I taught. I was teaching here.
Was it enough for you?
No, it was all right.
You did it with the same standard you used to?
No.
Was it hard?
I had a great time.
Did you cope easily?
Yeah.
Life has always been easy on you and with you?
No, I think that in life you don't need too much. You need friends, and you need to do what you like doing, and enjoy that. And I work very hard. I've seen the world. I've been everywhere. I can travel. I can do everything.
What about your purposes? What about your demands? What about your needs? The luxury ones?
I didn't need to have yachts and hundreds of houses and dribbling in diamonds to be happy.
Zaha Hadid, your projects range from urban scale through to products of furniture, interiors. Some of them are very well known, such as the famous chair, which is sellable at Harrods for £16,000. The question remains, who are your clients? Who does buy those furnitures?
Well, the car manufacturers are also Lebanese,
No, I don't know.
William Sawaya and Paolo Moroni. I don't make the furniture. I design the furniture. You can call them up and tell them how they sell it for so much money. It's a Lebanese price, let's put it that way.
Are they sellable?
Well, I've sold a lot of them. But you can call them up.
I'm asking you, I don't know them. But I'll do.
Well, I don't know. I don't keep a tab on how much they sell. I think they do sell.
But I think you must definitely be interested, in knowing how much they're selling, or if they're selling a lot.
It's really easy. I have so many things on my mind. How many sofas they sell is not really the most important thing on my list of problems.
Zaha Hadid, your architectural forms led to many paintings, drawings, and award-winning designs that inspired a lot of exhibitions. What are the major places where you have exhibited?
Oh, we've had so many shows. I mean, from the, Guggenheim to the Museum of Art in New York. More recently, we had a very big show in Rome, which was really tremendous fun. I mean, that was really great, the show, because we're doing a museum in Rome, so that was really great. And it's a great city. And, when you go to Italy, always, that light reminds you of the Mediterranean, so it's quite nice to be there. I've had many exhibitions.
Zaha Hadid, in 1999-2000, you have worked on the stage set of the Pet Shop Boys World Tour. How did it happen?
They just called us, literally. I mean, they called us and asked us to do their set.
It was a new experience.
It was, yeah.
Was it a challenge for you?
It was, because, you don't think about a set, how many parts it comes in, and you don't think of art in that way. So that was a kind of a challenging experience.
The stage. How did you conceive it?
Well,
since you don't like to say, how did you dream about it? How did you conceive it?
I mean, maybe one dreamt when I was a kid. I don't think, and as an adult, you just say, I'm going to go to the toilet and dream.
But you're an artist. You are
I'm not an artist.
And an artist, dreams.
Well, I see, I don't know, maybe your dreams are different than mine. I don't dream about it. I mean, it's like more like a nightmare than
but when
dream.
You imagine something, you dream
about it.
about
I'm just saying, I know the effort it takes to make architecture. So if I was going to dream about it, it's not like a nightmare. No, it's not a dream, no, I mean, I think we were approached to do this, and we always thought, how can you do a set where you can operate on more than one level, on one layer. It was a very simple set, and how we can have people who can move around and stuff like that. And so that's how we did it. It was like a big ramp, and they can come down the ramp and go inside a room. And
did you attend one of the concerts?
I went to 2 or 3.
Did you like the end product?
Yeah, it was okay. It was fun.
International top architect Zaha Hadid tonight on Future TV. We'll be back shortly. Back to international top architect Zaha Hadid on Future TV and وراء الوجوه. Zaha Hadid in April 5th, 1999. It was written in the Time magazine. Iraqi-born Zaha Hadid has long been a famous architect. Now her designs are becoming reality. Usually, how do you respond to critics?
Well, I mean, I think that critics should really know the full story. I mean, I think that, maybe I can't say it's not entirely one's fault that it took so long. I mean, if I had compromised a great deal, a lot would have happened earlier. I think that I underestimated the prejudice there is against women. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I think that there was tremendous prejudice, and also didn't help that I was Iraqi. Also at the time, I didn't think about it. If I really believed that being an Iraqi was a big problem, being here, it would have definitely made me leave.
Zaha Hadid, every time they mention your name, the expression Iraqi-born architect is also mentioned.
Yeah, it's always bothered me.
How do you explain it?
It's always puzzled me. I mean, I think they don't know whether. No, I think they don't. It's ambiguous whether I'm Iraqi or British. Whether they should say I'm British architect or Iraqi architect. So Iraqi-born is safe thing.
But what do you consider yourself to be?
I'm an Arab. I'm an Iraqi. But I live here. I mean, I can't avoid this issue that I live here. I travel on a British passport. So it's a kind of hybrid, and I think that is okay.
You are the osmosis of both nationalities.
Well, I can't say I'm Brit English because I'm not half English. I just live here. I see myself as a Londoner, really. I live in London. I've lived in London for 30 years. I see myself as a Londoner, and I enjoy living here. I also have my memories in Iraq, and I speak Arabic, and all that.
But not tonight.
Because I get, I don't know the technical terms. I've been asked many times, and I refuse many interviews because they're in Arabic. Not because I can't speak it, because I don't know the terms, and I, switch between Iraqi and Lebanese, and I sound funny.
Many architects try to compare your work to the dialogue in Woody Allen movies.
What do you say?
Oh, that's a great compliment. I'm not supposed to be an insult, but I think that's great.
Does this hurt you?
No.
Not at all? Not even slightly?
No.
But you're a woman.
No, I mean, I think that, you know...
And you must be very sensitive.
I mean, I think that if people if they're ignorant, it's their problem, not mine. If they are prejudiced, it's their problem, not mine. I think the one thing which when you learn of being a foreigner and living in a foreign country, is that you have to accept difference. That's one lesson you learn. That you are different from me doesn't mean you are worse than me, or not good enough, or bad, or whatever. So, I mean, I think if you don't learn generosity, people are too dismissive about things they don't know, and it really sheds a light on their ignorance. You know, it's an issue of language. Can you say, you know, that English is better than Arabic or Arabic better than Japanese? They're all different languages. They're all, you know, communicate to each other different ways. So, yeah, I just think people have to be generous about others, and people will, you know, be generous back.
During the last International Union of Architects held in Barcelona in 1997, the auditorium, which was assigned for Zaha Hadid to give her conference, had to be changed to a bigger one because of the overbooking, because your lecture recorded the highest attendance among the other speakers. When you came to Lebanon also in 1997, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, all the schools of architectures had to suspend their classes because all the students came over to attend your lecture and to listen to you. We say that the young generations are fascinated by Zaha Hadid. Is this fact due to your character or to your designs, which are advanced, avant-gardiste, as we say in French, and revolutionary in both cases? How do you explain that?
I've always had a very big student following. Even when I first started lecturing, when I was, in the early 80s. I think the student body at the time, who were always told by the professors that you can only do things in a particular way, I think this gave them a way out, you know. So I think people also want to believe in change. They want to believe there's another way. You know, in the same way they are attracted to different music or whatever. So I was always very supported by a lot of young people. And I was, in Barcelona it was a different story because all the lectures were oversubscribed, not just mine. I gave a lecture in a stadium, so it was hilarious, and we all had bodyguards, and it was hysterical. And Beirut was very moving. To go back to Beirut after 21 years and to have that situation was really great. The way it was arranged, and Asim Salam insisted on doing 2 lectures, which I was reluctant about, but it was really fantastic, and the atmosphere was great. Again, when you give a lecture, not the number of people, but the atmosphere in the room. That was a really great atmosphere. And I think people are intrigued because I'm one of them. I'm an Arab. Many of them knew me. But I think people want to, on one hand, want me to fail, but on many others want me to succeed because they want to believe that the exotic is possible. That someone who is doing things differently is possible, will not be kind of clamped down. I don't know, I can't explain any on that they're intrigued by it and they would like it to succeed.
But you know something, people would say more, and they would say that you've got followers, you've got disciples. They would say that you're worshipped,
I don't see it in this way. I don't know. I really don't know.
Don't tell me you don't know.
No, I really don't. I promise you. In Rome, I was mobbed when I was there for my show 6 months ago. My office people were there, they were all shocked. They couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So I really to kind of keep myself in the reality realm, I don't think about it in this way. It always surprised me. In London, you don't have any of these things. If I lived in anywhere else, it would be a constant reminder of these situations. But in London, nobody cares. It doesn't matter what you are. And that's one thing which is nice about it, is that you can carry on with life as usual. So I don't think of myself as really worshipped or loved or whatever.
We live on Earth.
I think it's very important because you have to be very self-critical. You know, if you're not critical of what you do, you know, the more established you become, people around you are less critical of you. So you have to be your own critic.
Zaha, I've noticed something here in your office. Your team, your crew is mainly made up of young people, young architects. Is it on purpose, or they are the only ones who believe in such theory, in the path you've chosen, in your architecture? You prefer to work with young people? Do they carry, you know, more values, or do they carry, you know, the values of the future?
No, it's not by choice. I mean, it's not by choice. It's a very tough office. Everybody knows it's very long hours. You know, I mean, all people cannot stay up till 3 in the morning every day or midnight. You know, it's a big mixture of people. It's not one single nationality. And also it's very demanding work, you know, and we attract let's say, the most ambitious younger people. So, I mean, I would like to have some older people there because only they have the degree of maturity and you know, some people I can maybe talk to, but you know, even the old ones look young here.
It seems also that some of the people who work here, they work free of charge, because of the prestige of willing to work with you.
Nobody works for free of charge.
No.
Maybe one. But no, they're all paid.
Zaha,
We used to have people sometimes used to offer their services for free, but not anymore.
Zaha Hadid, how do you give birth to a project? How does the idea develop? How does the idea proliferate? And do you follow a project from the edge to the edge?
Well, you know, the work starts usually, it starts simultaneously. I have to have an idea, you know, I have to think about it, and they have to start doing observation studies. So they may look at the ground or site, whatever, and then they come together, and then there are all simultaneous studies done through models, through modeling, through computers, through line drawings, stuff like that. It's all done at the same time. A study, we have a workshop. Do they take you to the workshop?
Yep.
And you do all these things at the same time, and I just look at it continuously. Before it was very different. When it was done by hand, it was all done in the office here. We didn't have a workshop. It was much closer here. It was like a family, you know, of 10, 15 people, of 20 people at the most. Now we are 50 people. So it doesn't have the same intimacy or closeness, but we still like we don't more than bring them here, we look at them, we sit all together, study them.
But still, if the number has increased, we say that you're a one-woman show, a one-man show. You do everything on your own, and you follow everything, all the stages from A to Z. Is it true?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not one-man show anymore. I have lots of people. You know, I have to say, I don't think any of this work could have been possible.
But you do supervise everything.
Yeah.
You don't give them full trust?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, of course I do. But I mean, I also like working on these projects, you know, so I think the real trick to really having a lot of it is to delegate. If you can't delegate, you can't do anything. I mean, you know, so and I have, let's say, 4 very senior architects here. One of them is away today, unfortunately, who is really a partner now on many projects.
Do you still have the same enthusiasm you used to have before towards your projects?
Yeah.
How do biddings happen?
Everything I do is mostly I do through competitions. I don't really I hardly had any commissions. So most of them are products which have been won through competitions.
Do you enjoy participating in competitions?
Well, that's my only source of work. I mean, you know, I like them on principle. If they're not
challenging,
they're not dirty. Some of them are dirty, so they're not really funny. But meaning rigged, you know. But if they're not rigged, well, because you know, with competition you can really push the boundaries more, because you know, the time limitation is one thing. You all compete. You don't have a contact with the client to start with. It's a very different chemistry.
After having been, or after being what you are today, aren't you afraid, or don't you fear losing any competition?
Well, I know I will lose competitions. But I mean, it's okay. You can't win all the time. You can't always do something fantastic all the time. You've got to do sometimes. I mean, that's the way it is.
Zaha, after 25 years in this profession, are you making real money?
No. You don't make money. You can't, I mean, you know, it's impossible. You can't make money. No. It's the most ridiculous profession.
But your life standard has improved, no?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, marginally. It's very marginal. You don't have luxuries, really. I mean, I could, if I don't put money back in the office, I can have much better life. I mean, we make decent money, but it's not, we're not making enormous profit.
Tonight, we happen to be hosting the international top architect Zaha Hadid. We'll be back with her for the last part, a very personal and intimate one. Stay with us. Zaha, you've lived in Beirut for several years. Do you still hold some nice memories? Do you still cherish some memories from Beirut?
Yeah, I really loved Beirut, actually. It was my second home, and I still love it a great deal. And it's a great city. I was really amazed and surprised when I went back after all these years, when I went back 5, 6 years ago, that energy which was always there was still there. I thought it would be different. I mean, everything changed, but that energy was still there, and I think that that was remarkable for me. Very exciting to see that energy can be still tapped on. So I really hope they, on one hand, I hope, I mean, in a way, I mean, on one hand, it's good they have a short memory, because then they could not cope with the situation. But on the other hand, I think it's important to remember what went wrong, because one should never repeat that again.
And this is a big problem.
And my fear is that the memory is much too short. And so, I don't know. I think the Arab world, maybe its time will come eventually, you know, and you know, they misunderstood as a nation.
Zaha, you've got family over there in Beirut, no? You've got your nephew, you've got your niece.
Yeah.
And your nephew
And I have
happens...
my uncles there.
Are your uncles too? Hadid family?
No,
Or Sabunji family? You've got your nephew, Hussein Hadid, the famous and the top cook in Lebanon today. You can greet him if you like. Say hi.
Okay, hi Hassouni.
Zaha, you're internationally well known. You've got disciples and followers all over. In a few words, you are a celebrity. Did the situation change you somehow?
I don't think so.
But you do live as a diva.
No, I live a very modest life.
You have many excessives, you have many caprices, you're over demanding, and you want them to be fulfilled, all those caprices. For example, when you came to Lebanon in 1997 to give those 2 famous conferences, they had to change your suite twice, once because of the color of the walls, and the second time was because of the bad audio sound system. Isn't that a diva behavior?
No, I mean, I had a room which I didn't like to start with.
You didn't like the color of the walls?
Well, it's nothing to do with diva. I mean, I want to be in a comfortable bed. But they also invited me to Lebanon. They did the worst thing to me. I stayed 2 days later, which I had to pay for. That's not a diva behavior, is it? They invited me to Beirut. They paid for 5 nights, but because I couldn't fly till Sunday, I had to pay for the 2 nights.
Yeah.
So don't talk about diva in this situation, you know. It wasn't worth it. I slept all the way there, gave 3 lectures. So I didn't make a big fuss about that. This is the first time I mention it, but I would like it to be on the air.
Zaha Hadid, why are you always dressed in black?
I like it.
You're the woman in black.
So,
It's a good thing.
it's all right. It's London. London is dark. I mean, I'm not going to walk around with bright colors. I could. It's an architect's costume, actually, black. We're all dressed in black.
You said one thing earlier, that you're alone, you're not married. But are you lonely?
No.
By whom are you surrounded?
I have lots of friends.
Is there anything in your life you'd like to change?
I mean, lots of things.
Such as what?
Well, nothing particularly. I mean, you know. I mean, you have to have one change, otherwise you're like a doormat, you know, unshifting.
Are you happy?
What is happiness?
What is it for you?
I mean, it's a teenager's paradise, you know, happiness. Be wandering around, you know.
And dreaming.
Well, no, I mean, people just like wandering around like, you know, are you happy? I mean, you know, I could be happy one day, I could be not happy the next day. You know, I mean, I'm so overwhelmed with work, and I'm always working, and I'm always in the office, and traveling, and giving lectures, and teaching, and everything. I really have very rare moments that I sit down and think, am I happy?
What about your private life, your life? You think about it?
I don't think of my private life. It's my life, you know. Private life, office life, work life, it's all intertwined. You know, it's not a compartments. You know, I think that some people, when they work to 9 to 5, they go to work, they go to 9 to 5 at home, they switch off work and they go to work, to home, and they have their family life or whatever the life they have, and they sleep and they wake up and they start with another life.
In your case?
I don't have that situation. It's all one continuous reel of film.
At the beginning of the show, I've asked you if you think that you've reached the peak of your career. You said no. I still have a lot of things to achieve. And now at the end of this interview, I ask you once again, what do you want to achieve?
I would like to achieve in my, I mean, of course, it's not my private life, but in my professional life, I would like to still achieve what I call the theoretical project, which is a project which I think that it has all the components of being the kind of really the perfect project.
Is there any theoretical personal project?
No.
No. We have started in Arabic and now we have to end up in Arabic.
طيب.
زها حديد، أنا بتشكرك الحقيقة على هاللقاء وهالحوار الشيق. أنا استمتعت بمحاورتك وأنت دائما متأهبة إلى مطلق أي سؤال، ودائما أجوبتك فيها شيء من الرصانة وفيها شيء من الهجومية، لكن الهجومية الناعمة والمحببة. بتحبي تختمي هاللقاء على ذوقك، بتحبي تقولي شيء بنهاية هاللقاء باللغة العربية؟
No, just thanks.
شكرا.
أنا بقوله بالعربي، اللبناني بيقولوا ميرسي.
بس؟ بتحبي تسلمي على حدا بلبنان؟ أبدا؟
Not to all my friends.
زها حديد، شكرا أصدقائي المشاهدين، شكرا لمتابعتكم، شكرا لوفائكم لهذا البرنامج. كنا من لندن العاصمة البريطانية بلقاء شيق وسريع مع المهندسة المعمارية العالمية زها حديد. بلتقي فيكم الأسبوع المقبل بنفس الوقت، خليكم معنا وتصبحوا على خير.